The National Guard is in Memphis as part of a federal crackdown on crime. Our Jordan James is there as well with a closer look at what to expect and how neighbors are responding.
After much anticipation, the National Guard has joined several agencies here in Memphis to fight crime, a task which has left an entire community on high alert. With helicopters hovering,
these are challenging times,
and officers lining the roads.
It's a damn shame. I'm just gonna be honest.
Memphis residents are on alert as a crime crackdown is underway, leading to the presence of the National Guard.
I don't think it is a good position to put us in or the government in to have the military come in and use military tactics against its own citizens.
They're among 13 federal and state agencies currently operating. Since Monday, at least 53 people have been arrested. Brandon B. Porter, a local pastor, supports the initiative.
The National Guard are not here to harass law-abiding citizens. They're here to deal with crime and other issues that disrupt the living here in the city of Memphis. And so don't ride dirty.
The National Guard has been deputized but are not expected to be armed or make arrests. With their presence likely to grow in the coming days, concerns remains for a city that's seen its fair share of challenges.
We'll make this something that we can learn from and get through.
This is not the end. This is, again, we got a lot of bumpy roads, so this is just another bump in the road.
At this point, no timeline has been given as for how long this operation will be in place. Governor Bill Lee previously said that success looks like to him, Memphis being safer. Reporting here in Memphis, Jordan James, WSMV4.
Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi are also in Memphis. Bondi says they'll charge anyone who touches a police officer with assault. Meanwhile, Hegseth says the National Guard will be providing security for law enforcement to allow them to safely do their jobs.
I'm not really sure why people that are law-abiding citizens are objecting to this, right? Because I didn't even know prior to this that Memphis was a place that was as unsafe as they say that it is, right? And they know that the Memphis mayor has to play both sides. So while the Memphis mayor is saying, hey, listen, yeah, we don't necessarily want the National Guard here, I'm going to work with him. And he's been ostracized. He's been criticized. He's been trying to be held accountable. They tried to come at him on MSNBC about Trump deploying the National Guard and sending the FBI, the ATF, even the IRS into Memphis in order to make it safe. And they're not over there stomping and kicking in doors. They're there making sure that people do what they're supposed to do, making their presence felt, arresting people, getting the guns off the streets. And that should be something that everybody should support if you're a law-abiding citizen inside of the United States of America. Why is this an issue? Why is this a problem? Why are black people in the community that are the most hurt, the most affected? Because listen, we don't need no community groups. We don't need no community advocates. We don't need any of that type of stuff. We don't need none of that no more. We need to stop the crime code in its tracks, similarly to what happened in D.C. Now, if they didn't get the results, and because what I found out after doing research after Trump deployed troops over to D.C., which, you know, I had visited D.C. and I had been questioning all throughout the Biden administration of why D.C. was so unsafe. But if they didn't get the results in D.C., then we would be having a completely different conversation, right? Then we can criticize it. They wouldn't be able to use this as a blueprint for being able to roll out and make the street safe again. Whereas if you are a person that's out here committing crimes, it's over for you over in Memphis. You're going to have to head to a different city. You're going to have a different conversation, because no longer is it okay for you to terrorize your community and make things horrible for the children, for the elderly, for the men that's going to, you know what I'm saying, going to work every day. People need opportunity, but the first thing that you have to have in any opportunistic situation is you have to have public safety. Public safety is key. It is number one. It is something that you cannot skimp on. You can't save money on public safety. They need to deploy more police officers, more National Guard. They need the ATF. And places where it's more crime-ridden is where we need to have more officers and troops so that the people can be able to do what they need to do on a regular basis. And once you make things safe, everything else starts to fall into place. Then you're able to get more businesses. Then you're able to generate more revenue and tax revenue. Then you're able to get your team safe and all of that stuff. But I just don't know why people are objecting to making them safe. But then if they was to get robbed, or if it was a situation that then, showed itself to be less than ideal, then everybody would be, all gung-ho, holding everybody accountable. It's over for that, bro. We need to get things back to the way that it used to be.
Your department is here to enable you, law enforcement, to do your job, to help protect your facilities, help protect your people, so that your hands can be untied.
We are going to work hand in hand to make the most violent crime city in the country have no crime.
I don't see what the problem is at all.
Salute every service member who has helped us carry out this critical mission. It's really a very important mission. And I told Pete we should use some of these dangerous cities as training grounds for our military, National Guard, but military, because we're going into Chicago very soon.
That was President Trump speaking to a gathering of the country's senior military leaders today. Los Angeles and Washington, D.C. have already seen National Guard deployments, and now more cities are bracing for troops arriving on their own streets. Homeland Security correspondent Nicole Skanga joins us now. Nicole, good to have you on. So you have some new reporting about the federal government's plan for Memphis, Tennessee. Where do things stand there?
Tom, good to see you. Today, beginning in the early pre-dawn hours, federal law enforcement soft-launched almost a test case federal task force in Memphis. 9 arrests were made, including 4 immigration-related arrests conducted by ICE. 2 illegal guns were seized. But this is going to grow. U.S. Marshal Service is the lead agency there, but roughly a dozen federal law enforcement agencies are being sent to the Tennessee city. Think FBI, ATF, DEA, CBP, ICE, even, get this, agents from the IRS and the HHS Inspector General's office, plus more than 200 state and local law enforcement officers were deputized this week by the Marshal Service to support the federal task forces on the ground, and an additional 200 members of the Tennessee National Guard will be deployed as soon as next week. They will not be making arrests, and in that way, the federal task force in Memphis is going to look like the one in Washington, D.C. Street patrols, drug and weapons arrests, warrant sweeps. It's unclear just how many law enforcement officials will make up this effort, but D.C.'s very similar effort saw about 3,000 boots on the ground.
So, of course, that's something we're anticipating, but the president has hinted at further expanding his use of federal and local resources in other cities as well. So what communities might be next?
Yeah, so we have 100 CBP personnel spreading across Portland now, with the Oregon National Guard saying it's begun mobilizing Guard members. Thursday, the absolute earliest they could arrive. The FBI arresting 4 undocumented migrants this week there after one pointed a laser at U.S. Customs and Border Protection. In Chicago, Illinois, Governor Pritzker said yesterday that DHS notified him of a memo sent from DHS to DOD requesting the deployment of 100 military troops to Illinois in order to protect ICE personnel and facilities.
Nicole Skang.
Yeah, we got to make America safe again, and that has to start in the inner cities. Some people will say, well, how come they won't do it in white communities and stuff like that? Listen, that's their loss. That's their loss. Anything that makes my community more profitable, more safe, easier to do business, walk around, don't have to worry about whether or not you're going to get hurt or mugged, is a blessing for me. It is a blessing. Now, I do think that this new experience, once people start to see that their cities are safer, their streets are safer, because I can't understand what all of these agencies are doing if they're not actually helping American citizens and American cities to keep us safe. We pay all of this money, all of these taxes and stuff, and you telling me you can't stop crime on the ground at all, and people are looking to defund the police? Nah. So shout out to Memphis. Congratulations on making y'all streets safer. I'll be watching. I'll be keeping a loop on this. I'm also covering on a Millionaire Morning Show, so make sure y'all tap in on that. Make sure you tap into the Patreon. Link is in the description. Teach Hanley, 40% off your first order, 20% off for life. I love y'all. Appreciate you. I'm going to holler at you guys later. Peace.